Welcome to the Lean Lifestyle. My name is Ricky Brody, and today I'm going to be talking about the app that I use to track my sleep. And obviously for me, this is something that's very important because there's a lot of information within this app that I use. Now, it is just a tool. Like when it comes down to accuracy, I'm not exactly sure how accurate it is, but it is very consistent. And there's a few things that I'll go over to explain how I've come to this conclusion and why I've noticed it and how I use it as well, because it does help me get a bit of an idea of how I should plan my training, what sort of cardio I should be looking to do. So the experience I've had with this app, really enjoyed feedback that it's given me. It did take a little bit of time at first. I've been using it for probably about a year now. Originally the data was slightly off and very inconsistent, but it seems like the more that I use it, the better it gets. And obviously now they've had a few updates as well, and I found that very useful because the data is a lot clearer and a lot more consistent. So I'm just going to walk you through the app, give you a bit of an idea of what's involved in the app, what information you can use, how I use it, and you can decide for yourself whether it's worth investing in. Originally got it, I think it was like £6.99, and that's just a straight fee. I don't pay monthly subscription or anything like that. But what it does is it takes the data from my watch, which is an Apple Watch, and inputs it into here, and it just gives me a better overview of all of these bits and pieces that I use as data to help me decide on the best approach to have on that day. Now, I don't look at it every single day. I don't always use it, like I'm not going to lie. But it is very useful on them days that I do tend to look at it, which is most days, but not every day, when it comes to deciding how I should approach my training, whether I should do more higher volume, lower volume, or do low, high, or moderate intensity cardio. So as you can see, the home screen's very clean. You've obviously got a good visual of what your sleep's been like. It's really straightforward. It gives you enough data within that first home screen that if you was to just have a quick look, you're pretty aware of how your sleep's been. You've obviously got insights to your sleep session, your time of sleep, your sleep rating, which is like a score of, I'm guessing it's 1 to 100. Also your readiness to train, and then it also gives you a bit of an advisory of what time you should go to bed. I'm assuming that's to achieve the full 8 hours, because for me, as you can see, I went to sleep at about 10 and woke up at 5, so that allowed me to get 7 hours sleep, whereas it's telling me to go to bed at 9 tonight so that I can then accumulate that full 8 hours. First off, you've got the sleep session. So this is really important for me because it does correlate a lot with how my evenings are. So just as an example, if I do get up with my son, if he wakes up in the night, or for example the dog gets up and I need to let him out to go to the toilet or whatever, I do tend to see that come up on this app, which has allowed me to build a lot of confidence in the data that I'm getting from it, because I've used other apps in the past where it sort of says that I've slept for like 9 hours, and I'm like, definitely haven't slept for 9 hours, not giving me a very accurate readout. Whereas with this, it does kind of correlate with the times that I do get up. So say I do get up and I do check the time, not for any reason apart from just want to know what time it is, and I do tend to see very common trends around that sort of period. So it is very good at giving you that sort of feedback of knowing what sort of time you wake up, or if you do wake up through the night. So going through the sleep session, obviously as you can see, it gives you some great feedback using graphs, which can obviously give you a good idea of like where your light, still and deep sleep is. As we go down, it's obviously got your heart rate as well, which I think is quite important, but the most important part for me is knowing how much light sleep, deep sleep and still and restful sleep I'm getting. So I don't necessarily have a goal for this, but it's really important to get a bit of an idea of how consistently you are getting deep sleep. So there was a point where I wasn't getting a lot of deep sleep at all, and I kind of knew it because I was feeling a bit sluggish. So what I started to do was supplement with certain supplements in the evening, reduce my caffeine intake and my water intake towards the end of the evening. And this allowed me to then notice that I was starting to get deeper sleep, which, like I say, using that data was really helpful because it kind of backed what I thought, but seeing this give me a good idea that actually if I made certain adjustments, I can actually improve my sleep, and it correlated with me feeling better and the app showing that I was getting more deep sleep. It also shows like your sleep efficiency, which is quite cool. It's not always at 100%, I can tell you that, but obviously last night I did actually get a good straightforward sleep, so it's a good day to show you the data so you can get an idea. Also your heart rate report, this isn't something I tend to look at, but it's good to see that my resting heart rate is where it is. So there was a time, like I say, when my sleep was quite broken, my resting heart rate was actually around 65 when I was asleep. Now it's come down to more like 57, and for me that's a good improvement. Also, I've implemented some more cardio, so just low intensity stuff, not every evening but most evenings, where I'll either take the dog for a walk or get on the bike, and I feel like that's contributed as well towards my resting heart rate slightly reducing. Now obviously if we go to time of sleep, this is also a really good way of seeing it. The visual side of this is without a doubt the reason why I like this app, because it's so straightforward straightforward and it's really not confusing. It literally tells you what you need to know and has good like graphs and breaks everything down into percentages for you, so it's quite easy to kind of see where you need to work on or if you need to work on it at all. So it just shows like a few trends and stuff. So if you click on the trends, it will give you another graph with a little bit more of an insight to how your week of sleep's been, stuff like that. And then you've got your sleep rating. The good thing about this, if you don't really understand much about sleep, it does give you a bit of data to actually give you an idea of like what each component means and how you could potentially improve it. So as an example, if I wanted to find out how I could get more deep sleep, I can go on Google how to get more deep sleep. So it's really easy to use this information to look further into how you could actually improve it. And then, like I say, you've got more information as you go down, which you can click on. You get further graphs to give you a good explanation of each part of it. And also, like I say, it gives you the weekly average, which is very, very important because you shouldn't really focus on day by day. You should focus more on your weekly average. And then we go into your readiness to train. So this is where your HRV comes into play. If you don't know much about heart rate variability, I highly recommend looking into it. It's a great way to get a bit of an understanding of how your sleep can kind of give you an insight to how your fatigue is building up. Now, as you can see, I'm in the green today, well, close to the green. So for me, this could be a day where I could potentially look to do a bit of higher volume training whilst doing more like 30 to 40 minutes cardio. Whereas a few days ago, it was in the red. So I opted for low intensity cardio at a shorter period, but also my training was very minimal. So rather than doing like 5-6 sets of certain exercises, just as an example, I done like 2 or 3. This meant that the following day, I actually noticed that I recovered really well from it. So if I was to do this today, it'd be very likely that I'd recover because obviously I'm low volume, low intensity. But the fact is that it also, if I implement some sort of higher volume training today, there's a higher chance that I'll recover from it well. I might wake up tomorrow and be in like the mid-range or maybe closer to the red. And then that means obviously tomorrow, don't go do some higher volume training, implement some lower intensity cardio or maybe some lower training if you was to train the following day. And like I say, you've also got like tonight's bedtime. So with this part, I found this quite interesting because it basically calculates for you what time you should be looking to go to bed. Now, obviously, like for me, this isn't always something I can control, but at the same time, it does give you an idea and it can be a way for you to sort of like trigger that thought process of I should really be getting ready for bed now and going to sleep rather than sitting up watching Netflix or something like that. And one of the biggest things I've noticed from this app is that it does trigger me to pay attention to these components. So the way I look at things is waking up in the morning is the most important part. Like waking up at a consistent time is more important than what time you go to sleep. So if I do end up going to sleep late, I still make sure that I get up early at the same time. This means that no doubt the following evening I'm going to be a bit more tired, which will often lead to me going to bed a bit earlier. And that cycle seems to work best for me. You can also set like a minimum and maximum for your sleep as well, which is quite good because for me, you know, I don't often get 8 hours sleep, but I have set a 7-hour minimum because I feel like if it's anything less, I need to be aware of it because 7 hours seems to be a good place for me. I can function really well on 6, 7 is enough, but 8 is more so optimal. Very rarely do I actually reach 8 hours, but like I say, this is all about creating triggers and giving me an insight to how I can manipulate my sleep and actually get the most from my days, because for me it's all about optimizing my performance on a daily basis. Now, another feature you have is this clock feature. Now, once again, the visual on this is just absolutely spot on. The reason why I like this is because it does tend to be the first thing I click on when I open it, and it just gives me a really open understanding of what my sleep was like yesterday. But not just that, as we go down, it kind of compacts everything in together, which means that my sleep rating's there, my type of sleep, there's a small graph, my wellness in the sense of like how well did I sleep, how am I feeling today. It also highlights my sleep debt, which I don't really know what that means, but I don't believe that you can catch up with sleep. Like I say, I think the most important thing is just making sure you get up at the same time every single day, and that creates tiredness the following evening. Yeah, you might be tired throughout the day, but that's just how things are. I'd rather be doing that than trying to go to bed at the same time every day, because that's something that I don't actually have much control over. Whereas if I know that I'm getting up at the same time every day, the likelihood of me falling asleep at the same time is highly likely. Or if it's something that I can't control, when I do go to sleep, it's pretty much instant. So then you can also look over the history. So obviously I'm showing you the history of my sleep throughout the week. As you can see, not yesterday, the day before, that was actually because my watch died. As you can see, my weekly average is just under that 7 hours point. Now for me, this is pretty good. That's where I need to be. Between 6.5, 7 hours is really good. If I get under that, you know, it's bearable, but not so much. So it's really important for me to ensure that I've got a good evening and morning routine. But like I say, I prioritize my morning routine over anything, just because the fact that if I get up at that time every single day, I do feel better for it, and I would rather get up earlier than laying in, because when I lay in, I just don't feel good at all. Whereas when it gets to the evening, if I'm absolutely knackered, going to bed early feels amazing. So with this app, as you can see, the visual side of things is fantastic. It is so easy to understand and get an idea of like what's actually going on within your sleep. When it comes down to accuracy, I don't know exactly how accurate it is. Just as an example, I seem to be going to sleep bang on 9 o'clock or bang on 10 o'clock, which is obviously not the case, but it does kind of round it up, which does make it easier. Also, when it comes to waking up in the morning, I do find that is pretty straightforward. Like I was up at about 5:05 this morning, I think was the time that I looked at the watch. So for me, that gave me a good idea that the information it's given me is fairly consistent. And like I say, there's been plenty of experiences in the past where I've been woken up in the evening, dog needs to go out, or my son. I do often check the time, that's just a habit. First thing I do is check the time, and that kind of sits with me. And then when I've looked at the app, it's been around the same sort of period. And obviously why it's really important for me is that I do notice that when I feel very sluggish, I can look at the app and kind of correlate that, which gives me the confidence to know that today should be the sort of training that I should be doing. Whereas in the past, my mentality would be just to push through. But at the end of the day, I am very busy. I do a lot of things throughout the day. What I don't want to be doing is fatiguing myself consistently just for the sake of my ego wanting to train consistently, push myself hard. But not only that, what I've noticed is my ability to train and my progress has been so much better since utilizing the data that's on this app. And my sleep's also improved massively. Like I mentioned, I wasn't consistently getting a lot of deep sleep, so I implemented some things to help improve that. I currently don't take any supplements before bed now, so it just goes to show that getting into that consistent routine can have a huge impact on your sleep hygiene. There's not very many downfalls with regards to this app. Like I say, it is just very consistent. I wouldn't say that the accuracy is spot on, but at the same time, my expectations aren't that it would be absolutely perfect, because it's not that easy. It's just coming off of my watch, so what can I expect? The other side is now and then it does have some syncing issues, but to be honest with you, since I've had it, which has been probably over a year now, that's probably happened like 5 times, and it does tend to recall the data as well. So like say there is a day that it's not synced, 2 days later that information's still in the app. Obviously getting a good understanding of your sleep can massively improve your way of life. Like we all know this. Quality of sleep not only improves your mood and energy throughout the day, but it helps a lot with recovery when it comes to your training, your cardio, all that sort of stuff. And for me, my main focus is to reduce my fatigue as much as possible. And that's not that I don't want to create it, it's that I don't want it to continually accumulate day by day by day. And that's something I used to do all of the time in the past due to the fact that I felt that I needed to do it. Whereas now I start to use different data to get an understanding of when's good to push, when's not. And don't get me wrong, I don't always use it. Like it's not the fact that I wake up every morning and check how I should train. But if I do start to feel a bit sluggish, it is a great way for me to kind of use it as a tool to get myself into the process of reducing my output a little bit and controlling it with more low intensity stuff and lower volume training, so that I can kind of recover a little bit better, and then I can continue on with what I was doing. And it's really important to understand, like having these things and managing these variables can massively improve your consistency within your journey. But not just that, I like to perform at my best throughout the day, whether it's work, whether it's at home, whether it's doing my sessions, whether it's my cardio. Like for me, I don't want to be doing it and feeling worse for doing it. So this is a tool that I use, and it helps me massively with regards to these little triggers, these little bits of understanding, educating myself on sleep. And I've literally searched up every part of it. So when it says to me about deep sleep, I've looked into how to get better deep sleep. When it tells me about my heart rate being that high, it was like, I think it was 65 or 67. I knew that my heart rate shouldn't be that high, especially at resting while sleeping. So I looked into it a little bit more. It was due to the fact that I wasn't getting enough sleep. My fatigue was higher because my deep sleep was very low. And then I also implemented a little bit more low intensity cardio on a more frequent basis, and that massively helped as well. And I've got no doubt that if I continue doing what I'm doing, that will also have a really positive impact on not just how I perform throughout the day, but my health overall. And these little things, this is what it's there for. It's not there so that you can be completely accurate. It's there to give you the triggers so you can make adjustments, learn how your body works and get an understanding. These tools are so helpful if you use them in the right way. So I hope this helps. If you want the link to the app, I'll put it down below. It's well worth an investment if you're looking to improve your sleep and potentially improve your daily performance. If you are struggling with fatigue on a regular basis, it could be the fact that you are just constantly hammering away at yourself, and this can just tell you or just give you the trigger to just think, right, next few days I'm going to back off a little bit, let this fatigue come down, get my HRV in a better place, get my sleep in a better place so that I can push on further. Because when fatigue's higher, you feel like you're doing a lot, but you're not. One of the things I've noticed is that using this and switching between low and high volume within my training has massively helped me progress within my lifts, and not just that, but in how I feel after training as well. And going into a session when you're very lethargic, knowing that you've got to do high volume is not always that fun. So switching to lower volume and actually focusing on just the weight massively helps me get through that session and come away feeling like I've achieved something. Whereas in the past, I used to get frustrated and think to myself, I'm not having a good workout, I'm not able to push myself. And now I'm able to correlate that with the data that the app gives me. I hope this helps. Any questions or anything, drop me a comment below.